Hello, my name is Brett Madsen. I'm the owner of Spec P71 Racing Series. I'm here with you guys today to cover a new YouTube series we're doing for our drivers. It's called Spec P71 Track Guides, a turn-by-turn guide to each track that's on our calendar. Some of what I cover in the series may be applicable to other vehicles, but the main goal is going to be to provide our drivers with proper sim practice before our events. Today, I'm driving my 2006 Ford Crown Victoria, the Spec P71 mod that we created for you guys for Assetto Corsa, which can also be downloaded in the link below. The track we are going to cover is Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, clockwise orientation, located in the middle of nowhere, Desert Center, California. I'm going to go ahead and get started here and take you guys through a turn-by-turn guide of Chuckwalla, again, in clockwise orientation. Starting off with turn one here, we're going to go ahead and start moving forward. As you see, as I start to move, you can notice that we have the timing and scoring to the left of the screen here for you guys. I'm going to show that right here. And to the top right, we also have the telemetry. So you'll be able to see my steering inputs as well as braking inputs when I do a full lap for you guys. Okay, starting with turn one. As we approach turn one, we're obviously going to be going full speed here. More than likely into third gear as we approach the first turn, the little sweeping to the left-hander into that right. What we're going to do is we're going to line up the apex as we get closer and closer and closer and try to line up the curbing as much as possible. So basically, this is going to be where you're going to want to point the car. For our cars, for Spec P71, we abuse the curbs. We're able to go over the curbs no problem. It handles it no problem. You still get maximum braking by utilizing the curbings. So what you're going to do is just keep it nice and straight. As you approach this, we're going to go ahead and just keep it straight, and then we're going to get to about right here, just before you touch that curbing, and that is when you're going to hammer the brakes. We're going to get on it, hopefully engage ABS on your car if it's still working. It depends on the car. Like Doug's car, we know doesn't really like to engage ABS. But as we continue onward, we're just going to just hammer on the brakes here. Keep ourselves nice and straight. Car's going to want to wiggle a little bit as it lifts that left front tire up and over the curbing. And it's going to position us in a perfect spot where we're just going to keep going right on through. We're going to, let me preface this, we're going to ignore the cone that's on the right hand side here. We're going to ignore all the cones that are in the game. The track mod is it's a good mod, but it has some inaccuracies, like the curbing is a little bit inaccurate, as well as the conage around the track. But yes, so we're going to go ahead and ignore that. We're going to create our own turning points essentially. And basically, like I said, we're just going to keep this a nice straight line under braking, and it's just we're going to slowly start to come off the brakes as we reach right here, start giving ourselves a little bit of a turn in input right up on that curb. It's going to push us very nicely back towards the outside curbing here. We're going to want to utilize all that curbing on the outside. So we're going to get all the way out here, and we're going to stay right up on this curbing. We don't have to worry about braking on the curbs or anything of that nature, just mainly because this is going to be a very high-speed corner. What I typically do for this is more of an advanced technique to set the nose and set the car up a little bit better, get the nose pitched in the direction I want to go. I usually just give it a nice tap of the brake as I head into this corner just to get the car to rotate, but it's not entirely necessary. But yeah, as this curbing ends on the left-hand side, we're going to start to swoop our way back in here and hopefully get to full throttle at a little bit before the apex. Apex essentially is going to be right around this area for us. So we're going to get up on that curbing. It's going to want to rotate the car a little bit as we get up on that curbing here. But that's exactly what we want. We want the car to be nice and pitched around this corner, because that's going to allow us to really just kind of four-wheel slide our way out to the outer curbing here. And that's going to be the fastest way around this track. It's going to be the way to keep the momentum going as we go around this track. So as we approach the end of the curbing, now is when we start looking ahead to the next corner. We're going to start looking for those braking markers to the right. Typically speaking, On stock brakes, your braking marker is going to be the 1 marker for the Crown Victoria. If you have race brakes, you're going to be braking at the curbing. So this is all going to be dependent on whether or not you have the Ford stock pads, or if you have, say, like Porterfield R4s, you're going to be braking at the start of the curbing on the right. But either way, we're going to stay out here as much as we possibly can till the end of the curbing is typically when I start to want to rotate the car in a bit, and you just kind of swoop your way back in towards the curbing on the inside and utilize the curbing as soon as you get to it to actually help rotate the car and keep the car pitched in the right direction. Naturally, these cars are very understeer heavy, so we try to utilize the curbing to really get the inside of the car to want to pitch and just take a nice set after that. As we head through the curbing here, head through the corner, and be up on it, and it's going to push us all the way out, back out towards the curbing on the right. And we are going to use that curbing on the right while we still continue this arc around the corner. Use as much of the curbing as you need. Your car may get a little bit squirrely as you touch the curbing on the right, but usually through that section of the course, it's not at like to the point where the car wants to slip because it is on the outside of the car. So now we're going to go ahead and continue this arc all the way through, flat out at this point. And just either the car, depending on the time of day, either the car is going to have a little bit of extra room on the exit, or we're going to use up all that curbing. If it's a hotter day, obviously the tire is going to be a little bit less happy about a long sweeper of this nature. And we're going to come all the way out to this curbing on the exit and use whatever we need out here and start maneuvering our way back towards the left-hand side for the next complex of corners. Next complex of corners is going to be a double apex type corner. So basically you're going to have a quick right that sets you up for another braking zone into another right-hand sweeper into a semi-long straightaway. So we're going to really want to late apex here. So first things first, we're going to compromise our entry a little bit on this first part of the corner. So we're going to come in a bit early here. This time I would say probably could use the cone as a guide here. Maybe a little bit later than the cone. And you're going to get up on here. I usually give the car a nice little tap on the brake just to set the nose as you start to approach here, because it does, as you see, it gets a little bit of a tighter exit to this section. So there's a very high chance that you might actually run off the course here if you're not careful. We're going to want to be all the way out to the outside curbing here, and our turn-in point is the end of this curbing. So as soon as you reach the end of the curbing, we're going to start coming back inside, and we're going to line up a little bit before this cone, so probably around here, and we're going to use the curb to kind of pitch us out into that four-wheel slide once again, all the way out to that curbing on the outside. And we are hammering it down at this point. We are flat out. We are pushing as hard as we can because we got to get all of that momentum going for this straightaway as we enter what is known as Crash Mountain, according to the motorcycle riders that are out there. So what we're going to do here is we're going pretty hard through this section. So we're going to be going into this corner. Maybe about here is where we're going to start like tapping the brakes and like really trying to get the car to pitch. We're trying to carry as much speed into this section as possible because this complex of corners, there's no risk. There's no straightaway at this current moment that we need to worry about. So we just need to get in here nice and tight, up on that curbing, and then as soon as we're off the curbing is when we're hammering on the brakes, wiggling that car, getting it under brake, get us to slow down under braking. And we're now focusing on keeping a nice tight line through here and back up on this curb. That way we can set ourselves up for this next corner, because this next corner is probably one of the more important corners of the track. This track is got two long straightaways, the main straight and this. This one is uphill, so we don't exactly have a lot of horsepower and we have a ton of weight that we're trying to carry up this hill. We're just chugging along, got to bring out those rowing oars to get up this hill. So setting us setting ourselves up for this straightaway by utilizing a late apex on this corner is pivotal to a fast lap here. So we need to make sure that we stay out nice and wide here and kind of swoop in. You'll know when you get this right because you'll be using the curbing on the outside of the corner to the maximum on exit. So we're going to start coming back in here now. And for this corner, I would say the curbing, or excuse me, the cone is probably pretty accurate for where you want to be. And then right up on the curbing and letting it kind of pitch itself out all the way out to this curbing on the outside. We should be flat out well before this. Basically back where the cone was, we should be flat out carrying, chugging along, busting out those rolling oars all the way up this hill into the most fun section of the course, in my opinion. This is where I get all of my fantastic videos and pictures. So we're going to be coming up on the, it's called the chute, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to be going into a right-left complex into a downhill. And the downhill is as you apex towards the left of this. So it's going to be a nice little quick chicane. You're going to be coming in here full steam. At the edge of this curbing is where we're going to be giving it some nice braking, probably for, I would say, about like a half a second or so. Trying just to pitch the nose of the car in as we head back up and over here to the left-hand side, or to the right-hand side, to pitch us towards the left. The late apex on this part of the chicane of the chute is very, very important, mainly because we're going to be coming downhill, as you can see, up towards the left over here. So as we reach the end of the curbing on the right-hand side, we should be pitching our car down towards the left. And we're going to get a little bit of slip angle out of this just because of how the surface is pitched here. And we want to get right back up on that curbing, use up all that curbing, and let it pitch us right back out towards the outside over here. We're going to use up all this curbing on the right too. We paid for a track day, so we're going to use up all of the track day surface. So after we get to there, at the end of that curbing, that's when we start thinking about, okay, we got the bowl coming up now. We need to make sure that we're back towards as far left as we possibly can to set us up. The bowl has numerous ways that you could approach it to. So some people like to go in super, super hot and just let the car kind of drift up towards the center of the bowl, let it scrub off the speed using the tires. That is a fast way for a lot of people, but I personally don't like chewing up my tires that much. I don't like destroying them that much, and for our cars, it increases the chance of really beating them just because you're really putting a lot of side forces on it. So what I typically do is I'll come out to the edge of this curbing here. The start of the curbing, I will start working my way back towards the inside. And I'm going to give the car a few taps of the brake or just a nice linear hold of the brake as I pitch in, just to kind of pitch the car towards the inside of the curbing. We don't want to be on the curbing for this because that's just going to shoot us up the racetrack. But we do want to stay as tightly as we can to the curbing on the inside as we make our way through, all the way through the corner. And as it starts to lose some of the banking towards the outside, we want to start thinking, okay, we need to head back towards the outside of the course. So as you can see, you can kind of see the track off in the distance over here. In real life, you could utilize some of the buildings as your point to actually come outside of the banking and use up all the exit and all that curbing that's all the way on the outside over here. So I think it's the bathroom, if I'm not mistaken, that I typically utilize as the building. Like, yes, I need to focus on the building on the outside edge of the course to let me know that I want to come back towards the outside of the track. And the car will also just naturally want to come all the way out here. Biggest thing is just make sure you only utilize the curbing here, because if you try to utilize more, it's going to shoot you right back across the track into the dirt on the right hand side. I've seen that happen before. I followed a few cars that have done that. It is a very scary experience, especially if you're really close to one of the cars. Just be very careful, be very mindful of that. Now, moving on to the next section of corners, it's going to be two left-handers in succession. Your braking zone here is going to be a nice hard braking zone at the start of the curbing. As we make our way towards the first left-hander, we're going to turn in at the edge of the curbing. And that's going to set us up real nicely here. Use the curbing on the left-hand side for this. It's going to pitch the car out. And it's going to put us right on the outside curbing where we want to be for the next set of corners. So we're going to stay to the right as much as we possibly can. Don't necessarily have to use the curbing here, because swooping to the right is just going to cause us problems because it's going to upset the balance of the car. So just stay as close as you can to the curbing on the right. Turning point is going to be the edge of that curbing on the right hand side as we make our way towards the inside of the corner. Once again, use as much curbing as you like here, and it's going to pitch us right back out to where the outside curbing is, and we're just going to go ahead and use up all that curbing. And once again, once that curbing ends, we point our car towards the left hand side of the track, the outside portion of this track, for the next complex, which is a decreasing radius sweeper to the right. And this is essentially the final section of corners here. This is the section right before we have a super long straight. Once again, it's a front straightaway. Very important that we get this right. What I typically do is I line myself up as far left as possible, and then heavy brake as I reach the first section of curbing. I'm going to stay out as much as I can because there's really no benefit to actually coming towards the inside here. We're going to stay out as much as we possibly can to set ourselves up for the next section of this. As we approach the pit lane, it's going to start doing a decreasing radius. Now we're going to start working our way back in and try to line up this little left-hand side of the curbing that's coming up here. Try to make this as straight lined as possible as you work your way around here. And we're just going to straight line all the way out of here and just go full up over the curb onto the straightaway and complete the lap. Typical lap times for us for the first time that you're going to be out there, more than likely going to be somewhere between the 220 to 230 range. As you start to get faster and faster, you're going to work your ways down into the 215 range. And typically speaking, 214 is going to be the optimal speed, potentially 213 if you really get a good lap together and the weather is perfect. But yeah, that's a turn-by-turn guide of Chuckwalla clockwise. Now I'm going to go ahead and hop into the car once again as a fast-timed lap. I will be giving call-outs to what I'm doing as I go around the track. You'll be able to watch the telemetry on the top right of your screen. Really see what I'm doing to get to a super fast lap time around Chuckwalla. All right, we make our way towards the start finish for our hot lap at Chuckwalla clockwise. Upshift to third, looking for that turn-in point for turn one. Heavy brake right before you get to the curbing on the left-hand side. Turn two, up on that curbing, back towards the outside, setting ourselves up for turn three here. Back over towards the right, up on that curbing, using whatever curbing you need out towards the outside if you need it. Back up to third as we set ourselves up for turn four. Heavy brake as you approach that curbing on the right. Maintenance throttle as you get towards the center of the corner, and back on throttle all the way. Getting up on that curbing once again, using any curbing on the outside that you necessarily need. Tap of the brake as you approach turn six. Maintenance throttle as we come through here. Staying in second. Back on the throttle towards the outside. Use whatever curbing you need if you need it. Relax a little bit as we approach Crash Mountain. Sending it full send into here, up on that curbing on the right. Heavy brake towards the left. Setting ourselves up towards the outside for this. Back on the throttle, up on that curbing towards the outside. Flat out as we make our way up towards the hill, up to the chute. We're going to go to a quick up in third gear as we approach the curbing. Tap of the brake, set the nose, let the car rotate. Maintenance throttle through, and then back on the throttle. And back towards the left-hand side as we approach the bowl. Tap of the brake to get that nose set. Keep it as close as you can towards the downside. Track is going to open up. Use the curbing on the outside as needed. Keeping it in second here. Heavy brake as you approach the left-hander here. back towards the right. Tap of the brake as we enter towards the left. Back towards the right, back towards the left. For the final section of corners, heavy brake as we approach for the decreasing radius corners, staying towards the middle of the track, and then slowly applying more throttle, using the curbing to kind of rotate the car up on that curb. And that is a full lap here at Chuckwalla clockwise. So some final thoughts here as we complete our hot lap around Chuckwalla clockwise. Most important thing that I think I could pass on to you is utilize the curbs. Don't be afraid of the curbs. As you guys saw in turn 14 and turn 15, I missed the inside curbs. Car understeered, put me on a trajectory that I did not want to be on. Super important that we utilize those curbs with this car. It helps get the car pitched in the direction we want to go. It eliminates understeer, the inherent understeer that these cars have, and gets us going in the right direction. Next big thing is just make sure you have your visual cues. On the sim track, obviously you can't use the bushes and brush around the track, or the cones really around the track to gauge where we're supposed to be. Obviously it's going to be very different in real life. You could potentially utilize the bushes in real life at the track, all the brush on the track in real life, but I prefer something that is going to be a little bit more concrete, a little bit more solid. Not something that's could be flattened by a car or removed by some gardening next time you're at the track. So I would highly recommend utilizing the start of curbs, end of curbs, any buildings that you can see in the background, basically anything that is an immovable object that will always be at the track. Definitely important to utilize that. Definitely important to set up those visual cues. Do whatever you can to get that muscle memory as well. That's the next big thing, is just get the muscle memory on the sim. Run some laps. Doesn't necessarily need to be a perfect lap every single time. You don't necessarily need to look at the lap times every single time. Just get that seat time in. It's going to make you leaps and bounds better than the person that has gotten 0 seat time on the sim. Aside from that, biggest thing I want you guys to do out there, have fun, be safe, check your mirrors, give good point buys, preferably on the straightaways, not in the corners. And yeah, we'll see you out there for the next event for Spec P71. Thanks for joining, guys. See you next time.